we have to take every threat seriously, and we absolutely will take every threat seriously. And there's going to be consequences to the actions. Because we could be right 99 times. But the one time we miss it because we feel like, oh, it's not important, we don't have a sense of urgency, that's the bad day. And in Arkansas, in Jonesboro, Arkansas, several years back in the 90s, a 12-year-old and a 13 or 14-year-old, had a school shooting. So don't tell me kids can't do this. And unfortunately, it keeps growing. So we're partnering with the schools. We want to make sure that parents have that conversation with kids. We want to make sure that, teens, young adults, even if you're in the school and you're speaking to one another saying, hey, I'm interested, let's set up a shooting. And that was a case that we had. We made an arrest where there was an individual talking to other kids saying he was trying to recruit them for the last day of school to have a school shooting. Your words have meaning, and there's consequences. So what we're trying to do is spread the word out there for parents, for teens, for juveniles to understand the Pasco Sheriff's Office working with the Pasco School District. We will ensure that these schools are safe. To the parents, we're going to do everything possible, but we need your help. Talk to your kids. Tell them this isn't a joke. It's serious, and lives are going to be changed because we're going to ensure that there's justice served, and we're going to make sure every school is going to be safe.
Just a couple comments. The issue that the sheriff talked about earlier with the young girl fearing that she was going to be abducted, that issue is very much related to this case. And it's related because people want to feel that they can be safe in their communities. They can be safe in their neighborhood, and they can be safe in their schools. Their schools are part of their community. And when incidents like this occur, people are afraid to send their kids to school. We have a school with 900 kids, and we have 390 kids that aren't there today. We have a whole bunch of kids that aren't taking their algebra EOC because they're not there today. We have lots of moms that sit in long pickup lines in our schools, and they live 2 and 3 blocks away from the school building because they fear that something might happen to their kids on the way home from school. So these are social issues that are not unique to Pasco County. They're national issues that are affecting our kids, and they're seriously disrupting our neighborhoods and our school system.
Can you walk through each threat? What are the situations?
I was going to say, I have several sheets of a lot of threats. And it's we joke and say there's a lot. It's sad. I go through some where we made the arrest. April 27th, 2 students attempted to recruit several other students to shoot up the school with them. We arrested 2 individuals on that one. There was another one, Ridgewood High School. Student posted on Facebook that he was going to shoot up the school. And Cloyd High School. Student sent messages to another student not to come to school. We have, RB Stewart Middle School today. Wesley Chapel High School, a student left a note in the bathroom saying they were shooting up the school tomorrow and to consider yourself warned. And I know right now you're gonna, these are all, we deal with these all day. And this is what we're going to school. And so I know there are going to be parents that are going to call you all now and say, I had no idea this happened. If you knew how much we have to deal with this, parents would probably be petrified to send all their kids to school. So we have to every day go through the threats, find out what threats are, we feel are being not credible, but every threat we take seriously. Every threat we go through. And the lists go on, and that's why, as this list keeps growing, there has to be a point where we remind everybody. This law went into effect about shooting up schools October 1st. Unfortunately, people forget. They have short memory. But what doesn't have short memory is the fact that the schools, the sheriff's office working together, we're going to enforce the law. And there will be consequences to these individuals that are making these threats. And so the parents out there know, you may not know of everything that is happening at every school at every moment of the day. Know that we're working together to partner. And everything that's important, the information we partner together, we'll get it out to you. Because it's critical that are aware, but at the same time we can't have you petrified and scared to death of every little thing that comes through.
Deputy Superintendent, I wanted to ask you a quick question.
Sure.
You said 390 students out of 900?
Approximately.
Is that Stewart?
Stewart Middle.
Okay.
Yes.
How much of a distraction in the school day is this for you guys? I mean,
It's an incredible distraction. We have the sheriff's office on our campus, so they're visible there. That's a good thing, but also it's a bad thing because the kids in the school and the community, when they see the sheriff's office there, they're worried because they're wondering what's going to happen. Ingress and egress from the school is controlled. Student movement throughout the building is controlled. We've been on controlled campus all day. So it's a disruption from the moment they get there till the moment they leave. And you have to think about the disruption that occurs for the kids that are still there and how much work a teacher can actually get done in a classroom when about half of the kids are actually there. And some of those kids are probably thinking this is a prank, I'm not worried about it. But some of those kids are very anxious about this issue and they're upset about it. Some of those kids may have pre-existing conditions that make them prone to being anxious about things like this. Kids who worry about things. I'm sure people in this room have kids, and all those kids are very different about how they react to situations like this. So it's incredibly disrupting at the school level, but it's also disruptive at the administrative level because we wind up focusing and taking our energy to deal with this case. We're lucky to have the Pasco Sheriff's Department helping us because they really rally. I mean, the messages start going off at 3 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning, we're messaging back and forth. I don't need an alarm clock anymore because of Troy Ferguson here because he jumps right on top of these cases. So they're incredibly disruptive to the school day.
Do you find that this has any coinciding kind of timing with pressure that the kids might be feeling? You know, certainly most people wouldn't say that's an excuse for any kind of conduct like this, but do you feel like the kids might be experiencing pressure and then they might be looking for an excuse?
You know, my background is I'm a certified school psychologist, and so I would like to say that kids are doing the things they're doing on social media because they feel some kind of pressure, but I don't have an explanation for it. I don't think that's the case. I think that social media is being abused by both children and their parents and adults. And as an example, the pressure that they might be feeling at Raymond B. Stewart Middle School today is probably 60 kids are taking an EOC for algebra. The same algebra test that you took, that I took where we were in school. So I don't think that kind of pressure is an excuse for disrupting the entire school day.
Does this ramp up towards the end of the school year?
It seems that way this school year, but I don't know that we've seen any trend where, you know, over the years that it ramps up around the end of the school year. We seem to have flurries of them sometimes, but we can't identify a specific time. They're not seasonal or anything as far as we can tell.
What's going to happen to those students? Any discussion so far?
Well, it's an interesting question because I can tell you what the rules are now. Of course, the sheriff's office will deal with them in their own way. Typically what happens in our system is they're referred to the sheriff's office. Sheriff's office does what they need to do. They can get up to 10 days of suspension in our system or an alternative placement. For example, they could be placed in a different school or in an alternative school setting depending on the circumstances. What I can tell you is if it continues, we're going to pursue policy with our school board that those kids will not be attending public school. They'll hopefully be expelled and their parents will be looking for some kind of private school education for them. That's not the current policy, but if this kind of behavior continues, we've got to do something so the majority of kids in our school building don't have their entire day disrupted. You all, as parents, know that you want your kids to go to school and get an education. And today, more than half of a school building got no education.
How frustrating is that?
It's extremely frustrating. It's extremely frustrating because you see all of the man hours that go into trying to deal with these pranks. And to give you an example, I was telling a friend of mine about this the other day, and they said, well, why don't you just ignore it? And I can tell you that the moment we ignore it and something tragic happens, you won't be as friendly an audience as you are today. We can't just ignore those complaints because it has happened in this country and it can happen again.
Is there an uptick in threats with these students, or is that just because social media we're hearing about it?
I can't give you a definitive answer if it's social media that's doing this or if there's a threats, prior to it. It just seems like it's easier through social media. And I'll give you two examples. A couple weeks ago, I think it was a Sunday, we arrested an individual. He was making threats. He was sitting on, in Moon Lake across from somebody's house, and he was stealing their Wi-Fi, and he was making threats through that way. There's another case, I don't have the information in front of me, but there was somebody in Pasco County we made an arrest on. He was making threats through social media against government officials in Iowa, to include the governor. And so I think it's much easier to do it through social media, and I think that is probably one of the problems that we face, is because how easy it is. And before, if somebody was upset and angry, they would just vent out loud and say something in a room by themselves. But now when you do it on social media, within minutes, there's tens of thousands of people that can see that had an impact, and it keeps growing and it keeps growing and it keeps growing. And so that's why when you get somebody who makes a threat against a school specifically, you're not just dealing with somebody in that class. That starts going to parents, and parents have friends, and they keep sending it and sending it. And it goes back to what we had today, where there was a middle school on the east side of the county. It grew legs. It went to a high school on the other side, and from my understanding, it actually was an elementary school that was starting to get. So I can imagine how many parents were getting this message that, and as everybody knows, information falls apart as it gets transferred, and so misinformation grows, and as misinformation grows, it starts building up legs of its own. So by the time it's done, there's parents thinking that, on the total other side of the county, that their kid's classroom was being threatened by somebody who wanted to shoot up the school.
And we see these in the snapshot quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
What elevated that to have like a press conference?
It keeps growing. And that's the thing. It doesn't. No matter how many times you say, tell your kids, tell the students at school, stop. So they're not listening, but we're listening. We're finding all this out. There will be consequences. So that's why it became important. And, like Ray said, it kind of had a connection to this little girl about, there's consequences to actions. This little girl was in fear. Well, you know what? It may not be a little girl who's running in fear for her life, but there's a mother right now who's sitting there going to herself, do I send my kid to school tomorrow? I heard this was going on. There's a father who, is having a conversation with their kid saying, do you think this is real? Do you think this threat? So that fear, it may not be a 9-year-old girl, but it could be a mother, it could be a father, it could be a grandparent saying, don't send the kids to school today, what if? Could you live with yourself if something did happen? Those are the things, and that's why when you hear 390 kids are home from school, that's because those parents had to make that decision last night. What if? Could I live with myself if something did happen? And they decided, no, we're going to keep those kids home. And so there is a direct impact. And so for those people that think, I'm just going to post something on social media, nothing's going to happen, no, there is something that's going to happen. You're going to be arrested.
What kind of a drain does it put on your own department?
Our own resources, it's incredible. And that's the thing. We're a growing county. There's over 500,000 full-time residents, snowbirds, everybody else that's coming into our county, which is a great thing. But at the same time our resources are limited. So when you have an incident such as this with this little girl, when you have the threats, at the schools, it's overwhelming. We have to divert people who are going after, robbers, burglars, people breaking houses, hardcore criminals, and we're dealing with these threats. We have to adjust to it. We have to adjust our resources. But at the same time I always go back to 9/11 Commission. Failure of imagination, failure to cooperate, failure of communication. If we fail to think that something can't happen here, we're wrong. And we have to be right 100 times. Every time we have to be right. Because when we don't connect the dots, when we don't take something seriously, that's a bad day. And we're going to be held accountable for not taking something seriously.
How did the parents know? They knew last night? That's why 390 students weren't there today?
Yeah.
You guys sent out something to the parents? Or?
No,
No.
it's all over Facebook. It's being tweeted.
So they
People
heard
are
about it
sending.
on their
They
own.
heard about it. They start calling the district office, and then parents started posting on Facebook. So it gets a life of its own once you start hearing about it. But also I want to differentiate for you because the Pasco County school system has what we call threat assessment procedures. So if, for example, you're on a soccer team and you have a bad day and you say, I'm so upset I want to kill somebody. If one of our counselors or something hears about that, we take you into an office and we have a protocol that we follow called a threat assessment. Or if you say, I want to kill myself, we follow a protocol, and it doesn't involve the sheriff's office. But the moment that you take those threats and you post them on social media, in particular holding weapons or making specific statements about shooting up a school, then that kicks it up a notch and the community's involved. We deal with a lot of threats on a day in and day out basis, but they're trivial in the sense that we can tell they're coming from the kids' frustrations, either with peers or with their schoolwork, and so we try to assess that and deal with it. But when you put it on social media and suddenly you have a community that is stressed out about this, then it becomes a whole different animal.
Did the school send anything out today, or do they plan on it with that many parents keeping their kids home?
Yes, Ms. Cobb can address more specifically what we did, but we sent out a Connect Ed call. I don't know what the content of it was, but it was letting parents know, and we always try to do that.
Did you do that last night? I mean, if this is spreading like
Ms.
wildfire,
Cobb,
I mean,
about
do you
that,
do anything to calm their fears?
We did not do anything specifically last night because the investigation was underway, and we couldn't really say anything. But the principal did notify the staff of the school that there was an investigation going on. We put minimal information on social media that we're aware of the threat and that the sheriff's office is investigating.
That was for parents, what you guys posted today? Okay.
Yes, today a School Connects call went
School,
home.
okay, that's right.
Yes, to let parents know that they'd identified suspects.
Did we have some of the photos? We can show you some of the photos of screenshots of the videos that threats and things that we see.
So this is from the Zephyr Hills.
So, yeah. It says 7th and 8th grade boy and his little brother say he is going to shoot up RBSMS middle school. So stay safe, guys. So as you can see, the language gets nasty. That's what parents get. This is what gets passed around.
And then the other one is from the arrest that we made with Ridgewood.
Can you scroll down? Now with like these teens and other teens, do any of them face any kind of felony charges, anything like that, do you know, or what's going to happen to that?
Yeah, that's what we've arrested them. It's under that news. It's Florida statute 790-164, and so that's what this is, a second-degree felony. So that's what these kids are facing.
Even though
What's
they
the
said,
charge?
even though they said we didn't mean
These,
this.
yeah, they can say don't mean all the day long. They respect. There's two things we always know about criminals when they get arrested. You know, when they talk to each other, they always say, it's not what you did, it's what they said you did. That's law enforcement. They said I committed a robbery. They said I scared people. And also, when they get arrested, it's always a big misunderstanding. So for them, everything's a big misunderstanding. It's a big misunderstanding that 390 kids aren't at school today. Oh, it was a big misunderstanding. You know, when I talk about shooting up a school, that was a big misunderstanding. I was only talking about a song I heard. I just wanted to put that out there. You know, that was a big misunderstanding. Well, you know what happens the day it does occur, and there's lives that are dead because of it. I can tell you, I can't stand here and say, oh, it was a big misunderstanding. No, because that's a very bad day. So to us, there's no big misunderstandings. Everything, there's consequences to every action. Words have meaning, actions have meaning. We're going to take everything seriously.
Do you have a message to parents? I mean, the schools are safe.
Well, if I had anything to say to parents at all, I would say that thanks to the Sheriff's Department, we have gotten to the bottom of this situation, and I feel that Raymond B. Stewart Middle School is safe today. But I would have to issue the caveat that parents should always stay alert. They should talk to their kids about social media, and they should make sure they alert us when they see something on social media that concerns them.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank our schools. Ray, have a great day. Thank you, everyone.